Tonight, a story about the hardship of war and friendship among strangers. News Channel 9's Melanie Olivas takes us on a journey to remember a fallen American war hero.
It's a story we've been covering for 2 years as two people who live half a world apart come together to fill in the gaps of history of a fallen soldier killed over 60 years ago.
I still pray for Johnny every night. I pray for Johnny.
Teresa LaCour Godwin can't fight back the tears as she remembers her brother.
He grew up to be such a nice-looking man, and he knew it, and we were proud of him, and very proud of him when he did go into the service.
John LaCour was only 20 years old when he and his older brother enlisted in the Army in 1942.
These are paratroopers in the making, hand-picked from Army ranks, but paratroopers by choice.
After finishing basic training, he eventually became part of the 101st Airborne Division Parachute Infantry, also known as the Screaming Eagles.
And my mother begged him not to go into paratroopers, that she didn't think she could stand that. And he said, "Mother, just remember that when your time comes, your time comes."
Eventually, John, like so many other young men, found himself fighting a war.
And every jump that he made, he was excited and wrote home about it.
But on October 5th, 1944, only days after his 22nd birthday, John made a jump in the Netherlands that he wouldn't write home about.
When those troops jumped that night into Normandy, they thought they were jumping on dry land. But the dikes and the water had flooded the town. And they jumped into water, and most of them drowned. That's where we lost him, and it was a great miss and a terrible grief that we all went through.
John and many of his comrades drowned that day. His mother eventually made the difficult decision to bury him in an American cemetery in the Netherlands.
We never had any closure to Johnny's death, really, because we had no body. We had no grave, no one to visit, put flowers.
Soon after her brother's death, Teresa and her family moved to El Paso. One day they received a package from the Army, in it an American flag.
This is Johnny's flag, 48 stars. Supposedly this was the flag that covered his casket.
For more than 6 decades, they grieved over their loss, hearing nothing more about John or his death. But then, a gift they never anticipated. Over in the Netherlands, John's gravesite was being cared for by a man named John Smeets. Smeets adopted several gravesites in the American cemetery. One of them bared the name John LaCour. Smeets began to do research. He wanted to know more about LaCour's family. He wanted to let them know he was taking care of John's grave. He found notarized letters from 1949 that traced John's mother, Bernice, to 816 North Oregon Street in El Paso. But he ran into dead ends.
Everything is one big question mark for me, because with the little information I get more questions.
It was in May of 2006 that John Smeets contacted News Channel 9. On Memorial Day of that year, we asked for the public's help.
And if you have any information on John M. LaCour, his mother Bernice LaCour, or his sister Rita, you can visit our website at ktsm.com and click on the link to this story, and then you can get in contact with News Channel 9 reporter Melanie Olivas.
I was just listening to the story, and something just said, this is something you can do.
Help came the following day from this man, John Armstrong. He got in touch with Smeets in the Netherlands and used what he knows about genealogy research to get started on his search.
I ran into more dead ends than you can imagine, and off and on for 2 years I would dabble in trying to find information on him. And the break came this last May when I discovered some birth records of a nephew.
And no one really knew me at El Paso as Teresa LaCour. But Mr. Armstrong, a diligent worker as he is, he located a nephew of mine in Kansas. And from there, he was given my telephone number, and that's how they found me.
He found her in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
A day or two later, she called me up, and I filled her in on the details. It kind of got emotional, and we're experiencing the luxuries that they have provided us, and a lot of us are very ungrateful for that sacrifice, and we need to say thank you, and this is just my small way of saying thank you.
Now John LaCour's family is saying thank you to two men who took it upon themselves to take care of a fallen soldier's memory and the family who had missed him for 64 years.
It's hard now, really, to bring all of this back, but I just thank Mr. Sneed so much and Mr. Armstrong so much that picked up the story. We've got closure now, but we also found a new family in the Netherlands, a family that knows Johnny and has taken care of Johnny.
Mr. Smates tells me he's extremely happy and thankful for the opportunity to get in contact with the LaCour family. He says he is ever thankful to John LaCour for the sacrifices he made for his country. In the News Center, Melanie Olivas, News Channel 9, Night Beat.